Hello everybody, my name is V the Victim, and this is going to be a combo review for episodes 6, 7, and 8 of Gielinor Games Season 4. So in episode 6, the challenge was to race from point to point in two-man teams without yellow clicking. So you have to always red click on something like a tree or an item or a door or whatever. You can't just click on the ground or the map. This was a really cool challenge. I was stoked to hear about it, and honestly, I was really confident because it just seemed like something I could do, and I was really excited and looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I fumbled the bag. I got paired with Solo Mission, I felt really good about our team, and I was thinking we could make the Tribunal, although if we did, I wanted to be the person that avoided it out of the four, because I assumed that's what would happen. But regardless, challenge gets off to a good start. I'm doing pretty well, I'm competitive, and I came up with this great plan to go down into the catacombs that I'm pretty sure saved like 10 to 15 seconds and would have been enough to put us into first. But coming out of the swamp off of Mount Quidamortem, I had rotated my camera just a little bit and I took a diagonal pathing for my character and just clicked right as my mouse moved off of a tree that I was going to red click on. So unfortunately, I got reset all the way to the beginning, and a lot of people took it a little bit slower and safer and didn't worry about speed as much. They just worried about not yellow clicking, which is exactly what I was planning to do. But yeah, I just missed a click and got reset, which was really bad for our team, put us way behind. And unfortunately, as I finally get in to the end, not in last place, but definitely not in first, Solo Mission is just like raring to go, and he immediately just spammed yellow clicks out of the gate. Like he just totally forgot that you had to red click, and he was just instantly screwed. And not only that, but the second he yellow clicks and runs off the starting line, people start entangling him. So he gets entangled off the starting line while he has to backtrack, and that cost us, probably a solid 30 or 40 seconds alone. And I think he might have even gotten entangled again. So at this point, we were just totally out. It was over. The challenge was done. And we later find out that Bodhi is the Tribunal's pick. Bodhi never picks the easy target. He doesn't play strategically. I think in the episode I said he doesn't play the smart way, he plays the Bodhi way. And that's not to call him dumb, but he just will always play his way, and that almost always means picking somebody difficult to go against in a banning. And he picks Solo Mission. I thought it was going to be me. He put me in episode 1. I just expected it to be me. So when the matchup was Bodhi versus Solo Mission, it was a massive win. One of these two giants in the games is going home, and that just means my chances get better and better. And the banning was an absolute banger. I was talking to Hootie, and I'll see if I can dig up some screenshots because I think I had some interesting conversation with him. But we were talking about the setups, and you definitely wanted to choose either the 1.3 or the 1.15. The DPS you gained from the best setup just wasn't going to be worth missing out on the multiplier for the combat levels of the monsters you kill. And yeah, such a cool banning that you have to kill the highest combined combat level of monsters in, I think it was 10 minutes or 15 minutes, a short amount of time. Super cool banning, super cool challenge. This episode was awesome. And in the banning, Bodhi smashed it, man. Like the vengeance on the Jad to start, he killed the Jad so much faster than Solo did in a way worse setup. Solo's was obviously extremely good, and Bodhi's was not that good. But the thing is, the blowpipe, especially against monsters with low defense, isn't that much worse with Dragon Darts versus Myth Darts. Like, the Dragon Darts are way better, don't get me wrong, but the blowpipe itself is just broken. And so Bodhi really smart, I think, picking the 1.3 setup. I'm pretty sure that's what Hootie and I ended up deciding, and I can fact check myself on this. But the 1.3 setup was just so good because of that extra 30% added to the combat levels. That's crazy. You definitely can't kill things 30% faster with Solo setup versus Bodhi's if you've got a good route. And Bodhi had a great route. Both of them went to places like the Catacombs, the Tsar area, all these places that have like a big grouping of relatively high level monsters close together. And yeah, Bodhi just comes out on top. Killer challenge. He played it incredibly well. Solo didn't play it badly, but he definitely, I think, was nervous and struggled. Once he had picked that 1.0 multiplier setup, there was really no going back, and Bodhi just crushed it. So huge grats to Bodhi, and Solo Mission out of the Gielinor games in episode 6. But hey, maybe because he got eliminated when he did, maybe that helped contribute to us getting DMM All-Stars, which, by the way, was a ton of fun. So massive props to Solo. GG, well played, and Bodhi is moving on. One big competitor out of the games in episode 6. Then we get to episode 7. This, again, was another really cool challenge. Soup is killing it. I love that we've gotten some more variety in challenges, because there's some classics like the Moneymaker that are always great and you're always interested in. But yeah, this one, a very cool challenge. You had to choose to equip an item in a certain slot, and I was really confident at this one. The second it got announced, I thought of like all of these perfect things to choose that would just be easy to get, quick, and unfortunately, I just made a massive blunder. I said it in the episode. I had one shop in mind for both gloves and cape, the fancy dress shop in Varrock. It has a cape for sale, it has gloves for sale. And the round was cape, and for some reason, like, I looked over at my notepad and I had the shop listed, and I had a dash, and I had gloves comma cape, or gloves slash cape. And I listed gloves first. I still remember this. I don't have the notepad anymore. But I listed gloves first, and for some reason, like, as I was running over to the shop, I just looked at the name and I saw gloves, and I bought gloves, and I tallied back, and everyone else has got a cape on when I see them popping up. And yeah, it was just brutal. Like, I think I could have won this challenge pretty comfortably, to be honest, and didn't. Yeah, I just didn't. So that's really too bad. And yeah, Roydy got sabotaged this episode, and it was a really big impact. It was too strong of a sabotage. He got delayed for a while. I think it might have even been worse, and we lobbied for it to be a little shorter, if I recall correctly, but it was still too much time to overcome. So he got out as well, and he gets into the banning versus Zoe Pancakes. And another really cool original first time in GG banning, where they have to complete a series of objectives in Lumbridge by using the fewest tiles as possible. And this is like, Settled Tile Man is popping off and everything. So it was topical, smart thing to use it. And yeah, I mean, it was such a cool challenge. Zoe loses by 3 tiles. Like, if she had just closed a gate instead of walking around it, which Roydy did too, to be fair, she would have won it. She took like an extra tile to grab the fishing net instead of grabbing it from the west side in South Lumbridge, like in the swamp. Oh man, it was such a tense challenge, and we were just watching it. Roydy did it faster, so we knew about how many tiles Roydy took, and we were all kind of estimating how close it was. And so every time Zoe made a mistake or did something cleanly, it was like, oh man, like, if it was clean, it was like, oh, she really might win this. And if it was a big mistake, like the gate that we'd watch Roydy do, it was like, oh, is she gonna close the gate? Oh no, she didn't. And I think most people watching who wanted to win wanted Roydy out just because they figured that he probably is a stronger player than Zoe. But in her own right, Zoe did really well at the challenge. She's been a solid performer this season. I think mostly just like middle of the pack in the challenges, which I can't hate on because that's been my position for a lot of these. And yeah, I mean, just overall, such a cool banning. Great to watch. I really enjoyed like reliving it, watching it in the edit in the episode. And Roydy wins. Zoe Pancakes out of GG, but great performance from her, and especially in the banning, such a close one. Really fun to watch, and Roydy kind of emerging as a pretty big threat. He's really good at the game. I was always kind of thinking about him on my radar, and now that he's survived his first banning as a rookie on GG, definitely more and more of a threat. Someone who I could see maybe making a final and performing really well. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. Now finally on to episode 8, the most recent episode. Finally caught up. I had to watch all 3 of these after DMM All-Stars ended because I was no-lifing the absolute heck out of that. And yeah, this was a big episode for me. So the challenge was basically a lot like the DMM All-Stars finale. It was a 5v5. We all had to choose our setups, and my team got smoked. At the time, I was terrible at PvP. I think Hootie didn't really ever PvP, and he was on 300 ping. We definitely had a ping disadvantage, which was kind of rough. I whined to Soup because I was coping back when it happened about how the teams weren't quite fair. But I think overall they were picked pretty well. I think they were a really good skill matchup, and then the ping just probably wasn't considered, which gave us a bit of a disadvantage. But you do what you can, and ultimately there's not really a fair way to pick teams. So I think Soup did fine with that. It's just tough to when he has to choose teams for a challenge, it's impossible to always make them perfectly fair, right? So I think that in the future, probably we'll suggest to him that the players always choose somehow, because I think that Soup, I've seen some criticism, and I made a criticism myself of the teams, and it's really tough to have to do that because, you know, like you do your best as Soup, and you end up making teams and one's going to win, and people who are fans of the people who lost are going to be like, well, these teams weren't fair or something, you know. So ultimately it's a tough one, and I think that Soup did his best. It wasn't bad, and we just got smoked. I played badly, you know, so I was coping, and it's not, I'm definitely not mad about it now. It's mostly just like right after we lost, I was like, that didn't seem very fair. But nowadays I'm like, if I were just better, like if I were as good as I'd played in the last couple rounds of All-Stars, for example, then we might have had a chance instead of me getting absolutely smoked by Framed. A little bit more cope, I will say. I splashed like, I don't even know how many times in a row in this challenge. I splashed so much. I just kept trying to catch a freeze to get control of the fight and DD and stuff. And man, I think I think I hit like one freeze, and it was when he froze me at the same time. So I didn't ever get to DD him the entire fight, and I just got demolished in Zerker versus main. But anyway, we get to the tribunal. It has Foe and Roydy and Framed in it. And Framed, big ally of mine last season, ultimately his alliance was the one I chose as a solo player to take me through to the finale and then ultimately win. And I figured that he wouldn't really have any say in the banning, so no matter what he said, I wasn't super worried about it, and I wasn't going to assume that he was gunning for me. But Foe and Roydy, two farmers, the farmers have been... they spent all season, like, you know, they'd just been playing hardcore together constantly, and they talked about it. Mr. Mammal was always saying stuff about the farmers, and so was Roydy. And so my name comes out of that, and they're like, oh, we flipped a coin or rolled a die or whatever, 1 to 5, and it happened to be you. And I was just like, yeah, bullshit. There's no way. So I didn't believe it for a second, as you could hear from the episode. And unfortunately, yeah, I'm in the banning for this one. At this stage, I'm going to do exactly what I did the last time I got put in a banning, and I'm going to try to pick somebody I think I have the best chance against, and that's Mr. Mammal. He's a great player. He really is. He gets memed a lot, especially with the farmers timing, because he had just lost like 4 of their 5 lives or something. I don't know. Sorry if I'm wrong on that, but he'd lost multiple lives and everybody was memeing him and stuff. He's a rookie. He doesn't have a lot of experience in pressure challenges. And so I pick him. Me versus Mr. Mammal. I say a farmer for a farmer. Still feel really good about that line. That was just off the dome during the recording. And yeah, we get into this elimination, and it happens to be almost completely RNG based, which is my nightmare. If I lose a banning against somebody who just outplayed me, fair enough. They're better. It was their day. GG. Well played. I'm out. But in an RNG one, oh, that's brutal. You kind of have to have them, I feel like, for the game. I think it's good for the game to have some RNG bannings, because you shouldn't just be able to be like, well, I'll just go into the banning and I'm so good that I'll win every time. Because if that's true, you'll just automatically end up in the finale of GG and win. And the way that a show like this works is not going to be that the most deserving best player always wins. And I think that that's good for the game. Because if the most deserving best player always wins, you might as well not even hold the entire series. Just start with 6 people that are all the best players you could possibly find to invite, and then have them do the finale in 1 episode and call it right there. So I think that you need challenges like these that are RNG. I just really hate being in them, because, you know, you just like, am I going to get out of the game that I love and want to keep playing? Well, flip a coin. And, you know, and so it's pretty brutal. And I was really nervous, but ultimately I managed to get this. It sounds dumb, but I managed to get a psychological edge on Mr. Mammal, and I convinced him to eat in the first fight when I was like, there's no world in which I should have won that fight, but I convinced him to give up 1 or 2 of his turns, and it snowballed. I hit again, made him eat again, and ultimately got the luck to kill him in the first round. And then in the second round, I made a good play with the Zamorak brew. I remembered that it had been a while. We hit a lot of zeros, and I remembered that I could rebrew and up my stats again and sacrifice some defense, yes, but get those offensive stats to help me get the KO. And I think after popping a rebrew, maybe 2 hits later or 3 hits later, I managed to roll the lucky hit, take him out, and win the banning 2-0. And in a banning like this, you want to win 2-0. You don't want it to go down to the wire. You probably don't want that for any, to be fair, but for an RNG one that you're nervous in, you don't want it to go down to the wire. You want the clean 2-0. You don't want to let what happened to Skill Specs last season happen to you, where you win the first one and then suddenly they reverse sweep it. Just put them away. 2-0. Beautiful. And like I said in the episode, I'm always going to choose Sabotage, and I'm always going to choose someone that put me in. So keep an eye out for that next week. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching DMM All-Stars, and I'm looking to stream some here and there, probably mostly combat achievements. So keep an eye on the Twitch. I'll throw a link to that in the description if you want to watch. And that's it. That's all I got for you. Thanks so much for watching. This ended up being a really long one, so if you stuck around the whole time, I really do appreciate it. And I will see you either next live stream or next week for another review. Take it easy.